Well, good morning, everyone. We want to welcome you here today. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Bayworks Virtual Training Buffet for 2021 session. And this is moving water efficiency into the 21st century. My name is Robert Scott, and I will be the moderator for this session. For those of you who aren't familiar with Bayworks, we are a consortium of water and wastewater agencies in the Bay Area, San Francisco region, working together to ensure that we will have a reliable workforce needed to serve our customers and protect our environment. Bayworks activities, programs, and events are open to employees of all water and wastewater utilities. Please visit our website at bayworks.org. Before we begin today, I want to share a few logistical things. We want to invite you to post your questions and comments into our chat field. We will get to as many as we can near the end of the session. This session will be posted to our bayworks.org website soon. Also, near the end of the session, we will post a brief survey and ask you to please fill it out. We always like to plan for future events and hear your thoughts about our events. In your upper right-hand corner, you might want to put your screen into the gallery view so we can make sure that you see our presenters for today. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Alice Towey and Charles Bohlig, who will be joining us hopefully later, but he'll be coming in as well. And they work in the water conservation department at EBMUD. Alice, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Robert. And thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. I'm really excited to share this presentation. So as Robert mentioned, let me just get this started up. I'm going to be talking about moving water efficiency into the 21st century. So I'm the manager of water conservation at EBMUD. Water conservation has probably been in the news quite a bit lately just because of the drought, which unfortunately we're all too familiar with those in California. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just EBMUD's conservation programs and the way that water conservation is kind of shifted. A lot of people, when they think of conservation, they think of just, rebate programs like, putting in efficient toilets and things like that. But the programs have gotten a lot more sophisticated. We're using technology. We're doing a lot with communication and marketing and outreach to our customers. So I'm hoping that this will get you all excited about careers in water conservation. But at the very least, I'm hoping I can share some tips with you about how you can, help us save water. So the general overview, I'm going to be talking a little bit about water conservation and just why it's important, why we do it. I'm going to talk a little bit again about what you can do to save water, just kind of going through some of our different programs, and then talk a little bit about the future of water conservation and just the way that it's changing. And at the very end, I've just got a few slides where we talk a little bit about some of the career options at water conservation and the types of skills that we're looking for. And, you can feel free to ask questions, as Robert mentioned, please type them into the chat. And I'm happy to share my contact information as well. So if folks have any additional questions, or if you're really inspired and really want to learn more about careers in water conservation, by all means, reach out to me. So just to start off with, I always like to talk about why we conserve. There's lots of different reasons, as you'll see, to conserve water, but this is the one for me. This is what really inspires me. This picture is from EBMUD's McComney River watershed. You can see that dam, that's our Party Dam there, where we get most of our water supply. We manage 2 reservoirs on the McComney River. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's an amazing location. It's great for recreation. It's important habitat for salmon, for steelhead. And so, I'm always really inspired by thinking about that habitat and thinking about that river, and the fact that the choices I make over here in El Cerrito, where I live, those choices affect that habitat. It's also obviously an important source of water supply for EBMUD. So you can see here just a little bit of history. About 90% of our water supply comes from a McComney River. And you can kind of see color coded there. The blue is years where we've had sort of, normal or above normal precipitation, and green is below normal. And then you can see in the orange and the red, the dry and the critically dry. So we know that drought, unfortunately, is a way of life in California. We historically have had this variable water supply. It is getting worse over time with climate change. We expect that there are going to be more frequent droughts, potentially more intense droughts. like we just saw, this past water year was the driest on record for the East Bay and the second driest on record for the McCalmey. So water conservation is a really important tool for making sure that we can meet those challenges. But it's about more than just water supply. You can see in the pictures here, I mentioned the fish habitat. It's also, water conservation is also important for energy efficiency. Something like 10% of the electricity use in California goes to water. It goes to moving water, pumping it, heating it, treating it. So when you save a gallon of water, you're actually saving quite a bit of electricity as well. I mentioned the habitat. You can see these pictures, the California poppies, those are native plants. They're our state flower. We talk a lot about the multiple benefits of water conservation. A lot of the things that we talk about these days, and you'll hear us go into this a little bit, is sort of sustainable landscaping. So, getting rid of the lawn that, just takes a lot of water and fertilizer and doesn't, in a lot of cases, doesn't really sort of offer anything. And instead putting in, gardens that have sort of climate appropriate plants, in a lot of cases, native plants that, you might see in the parks out around here. That actually provides habitat, and it also, restores the soil. It can lead to carbon sequestration. So there's a lot of benefits to doing water conservation. For East Bay MUD, our program is very important. We've been doing water conservation since the 70s, probably even before that. We consider it an overall part of our water supply portfolio. Our first water conservation plan was developed in 1994. And we're actually in the process of updating it now with the 2021 version that goes into our new goals and technologies and programs to help us meet those conservation goals. So in terms of where we've been and where we're going, we recently, a couple of years ago, did some modeling and looked back and realized that from 1994 to about 2018, we had achieved 46 million gallons per day of water conservation. So that's water that, we're able to, have on hand in case of droughts. It's water that's in the ecosystem. It's money that our customers are saving by not paying those utility bills. So that's really fantastic. We've had different goals over time. Currently, as part of that modeling that we did in 2018, we set a new goal for ourselves of achieving 70 million gallons per day of water conservation by the year 2050. So you can see, we've got that 46 that we've already kind of locked in. You can see that, that number going up and, trying to save more. Emerging state regulations are also an important driver for us. And one of the reasons that there's probably going to be quite a bit of growth in the water conservation field over the next several years. There's this new state series of regulations that's under development right now. After the last drought, the governor developed this plan, making water conservation a California way of life. And the Department of Water Resources and the state board are kind of working on figuring out the specific details of that plan. And East Bay MUD is a stakeholder in that process. But ultimately what it means is that agencies like East Bay MUD are going to have water use efficiency goals that we have to meet. So that's going to include, how much water folks are using indoors. It's going to include how much water we're using for irrigation, and then how much water our commercial and industrial and institutional customers are using, and then also reducing our water loss. So those goals that the state is setting are pretty ambitious. So East Bay MUD and all the other water agencies are going to have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're, increasing our water use efficiency and meeting those goals. So you've probably heard in the news, we are in a drought. I know it's rained a certain amount over the past month, but we are still in a drought. As I mentioned, the water year 2021, it was the second driest year on record for the McCalmey watershed and the driest year on record here in the East Bay locally. In response to that, last April, our board declared a stage 1 drought. So we're asking for 10% voluntary conservation across our service area. We also took action to buy supplemental supplies from the Sacramento River from the Bureau of Reclamation through the Central Valley Project. And we're really taking those actions early because we want to be in a good position in case this next year is also dry. So far the rain year is off to a good start. We had that massive storm in October that helped a lot locally. We also got some good precipitation up in the mountains in our McCalmey watershed. But we all remember 1976, which was one of the driest years on record, where it started out similarly. It kind of started off with a bang and then just sort of fizzled. So we're watching the forecast, the long-term forecast very carefully. We're paying a lot of attention to our snowpack, and to demand in our service area. because it's entirely possible that we could still end up in a drought. Now, we are doing our part, EBMUD, and I know it's the same for other agencies. We ask our customers to find and fix leaks. We're also doing that ourselves. We have a lot of programs to try to fix leaks in our distribution system. EBMUD, we have about 4,000 miles of distribution system piping. So that's a lot of pipe, and especially in a seismically active area, and particularly when we've got some older pipes, there's a lot of potential for leaks. I don't think we have any more redwood pipe in our service area, but we did at one point have pipes that were actually, I think we've replaced all those. But we are doing things like pressure management in the distribution system, active leak detection. You can see we use satellites, we use acoustic leak detection. We have these devices that kind of basically listen to the pipes and listen for the trickle of water. We're trying to improve the speed and quality of our repairs. A number of years ago, we did a study and realized that we were only replacing about 10 miles of pipe a year. And when you've got 4,000 miles of pipe, do the math, that means you're expecting pipes to last like 400 years, which they don't. So we're really trying to like ramp up, how much pipe repair we do every year. And just doing a lot of research and careful thinking about our infrastructure management and about how we decide and prioritize which pipes to repair. So we can, if we have a pipe that we think is at risk of failing, we're replacing it or repairing it before that has a chance to happen. What are we asking our customers to do in the drought? Well, there's three basic things, and we're going to be talking about all these throughout the course of the presentation. The first big thing is irrigating efficiently. A lot of our conservation savings during a drought come from reducing outdoor irrigation. A lot of folks tend to overwater. Folks want to have if they have a lawn, they want to have that green, nice bright green lawn, and they water it every single day. And a lot of times they're actually watering more than they used to, and it's actually bad for the plants. So we're focusing on outdoor irrigation. We're also asking our customers to find and fix leaks, and we've got a lot of tools available to help with that. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And then we're asking folks to be mindful of indoor water use. Over the years, due to updates in the plumbing code and requirements for appliances and hardware, most indoor water use is actually pretty efficient already. You might remember, if you've lived in California a long time, in the olden days, we talk about putting a brick in your toilet tank so that it wouldn't use quite as much water when you flushed. Like, we're not doing that anymore because most folks have toilets that are a lot more efficient. But I see Robert smiling and nodding. He knows what I'm talking about, the brick in the toilet. We do also tend to, as I mentioned, we kind of do sort of break out between outdoor and indoor water use, because as you can see here, when you kind of look in aggregate, outdoor water use for households in EBMUD service area is about 34% of water use. So it is pretty significant, and it is what we consider to be a little more discretionary. We don't want to tell people not to wash their hands. We don't want to tell people not to take showers, wash their clothes, stuff like that. That's stuff that you really need to do for, health and safety, right? But watering your lawn, you can do that a little less often. So that's why that's kind of a major focus for us. I'm going to just talk briefly here about leaks, because leaks are a huge source of water waste. As I mentioned, we're in an area where there's a lot of older plumbing, even on just people's houses. There's seismic activity, which in some cases can cause things to get jostled and move around a little bit. We've done a lot of work with our customers over the years, and we've found that the two biggest sources of leaks are outdoor watering systems and toilets. So irrigation systems, very common source of leaks. And a lot of times, especially if people have larger properties, they might not even know it, right? They might have a sprinkler head that's broken, and for like an hour every day, it's just gushing water, and they don't even see it because it's way back in a corner of their property. Similarly, toilet leaks a lot of times go unnoticed. A lot of times it's, you have that flapper. Sometimes that flapper doesn't set properly, or it has some kind of misalignment, or it has some kind of break or tear in it. And that can be a source of a very slow leak. But those slow leaks can really add up. Even if it's just a small amount of water, if it's just flowing continuously, that really adds up over time. Other common sources of leaks are just, pipes throughout the house, sometimes leaking faucets and showers, although those tend to be easier for folks to see. Sometimes if folks have pools or spas, sometimes those can leak. So leak sizes and costs, this is just to kind of give you a sense, of the fact that, you can see here typically what we found in terms of the size of the leaks and then how much it can cost. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that smaller leaks oftentimes get bigger over time, depending on the type of leak it is. Sometimes, what just starts as a little pinprick leak on a pipe or on an irrigation line gets bigger over time. But leaks can add up and can be pretty sizable. So it's not just a water waste issue, but it's also kind of an affordability issue for our customers. We want to make sure, nothing is more heartbreaking than getting a call from a customer who says, hey, I have a $5,000 water bill because I had this leak I didn't even know about. So we really want to make sure that our customers know about the tools that we have available so that they can, find and fix those leaks. So let's talk a little bit about indoors. As I mentioned, that tends to be pretty efficient, but there are still some things that we ask folks to do. And this is where a lot of the sort of, communications and messaging and marketing skills come into play, is like, sharing information with our customers about how they can save water indoors. We have at EBMUD what we call our home water survey kit. It's a little booklet. You can see it here. It comes with a couple dye tabs for doing that toilet leak test. I mentioned that those flapper leaks are really common. So this is a test folks can do at home. You can also do it if you've just got some food coloring. You just put a couple drops in the toilet tank, wait 10 minutes and look in the toilet bowl. And if you see that any color has gotten into the water, then you've got some kind of a leak. This home water survey kit also comes with this bag that and instructions for measuring flow from faucets and shower heads. And so if customers, fill out this worksheet and mail it to us, if there's any devices that they need, like efficient shower heads, faucet aerators, those hose nozzles that turn off, we'll actually send those to customers for free. We also have on our website this really cool tool, our Water Smart calculator, and I encourage you to find it if you have a chance and just play around a little bit. It sort of walks you through each room of the house and helps you kind of figure out how efficient your house is just based on the types of appliances you have, how many people are in your house, how much water you're using, that kind of thing. But it's an example of the types of digital tools that we're starting to, really promote and make available. In general, in water conservation, there's a real shift, as I mentioned, away from just kind of, rebates and just replacing fixtures and hardware, since a lot of that is efficient already, moving more towards making tools available to customers so that they can monitor and understand their water use and make good decisions. And we'll talk about those a little bit more later. Outdoors. So as I mentioned, this is where the majority of our water savings come from during a drought, is helping our customers to irrigate more efficiently. We see a lot of irrigation problems when we work with customers, things like poor coverage and runoff. You can see that photo in the upper left. That's kind of my nemesis when I'm, out walking around in the neighborhood and, I see somebody's watering their lawn and there's water, dribbling down the sidewalk into the street. We always say you don't need to water the sidewalk. It doesn't matter how much you water it. It's not going to grow. We also see a lot of problems with high pressure that can cause misting. So if you see these little irrigation heads that just have mist, a big cloud of mist coming out of them, usually that's because the pressure is too high. Sometimes folks have mismatched irrigation equipment, or the spray irrigation in areas where it's not really suitable. Another common problem is if folks have a controller, it's not programmed properly. So these are the types of things that we look for when we're working with customers. Efficient irrigation. During the drought, we've been asking folks not to water their lawn more than 3 times per week and to water shrubs and trees only once a week. Shrubs and trees tend to do better with less frequent and more deep irrigation. Again, avoid runoff and overspray, like that picture in the upper right corner. And then we ask folks to water at dusk and dawn to avoid evaporation. And again, we have a lot of tools on our website. We have schedules, we have calculators, we have all sorts of information for our customers on how to irrigate efficiently. We also have a lot of resources on plant selection. I mentioned a big movement in water conservation right now statewide is on doing landscape landscape replacement. So getting rid of lawns and putting in water efficient plants. In a lot of cases, you can put in gardens that are really beautiful, and that have those additional benefits in terms of soil health, in terms of, having a local ecosystem. So we have a lot of resources on helping folks to pick water efficient and drought tolerant. Excuse me. So I'm going to switch focus now and talk a little bit more specifically about the future of conservation at EBMUD. And I think really this probably applies to other agencies as well. Just thinking about, more of those digital tools, as I mentioned, that we're starting to try to make available for our customers. So the main thing that we're trying to promote right now is our website, our web portal. where customers can sign up. That does a couple of things. When customers sign up, it gives them access to a whole bunch of tools, and we'll walk through some of those. That also gives us as an agency access to their contact information, which is useful for things like sending out information, sending out emails or text alerts if there's emergencies, if there's droughts and we want to share information with customers, and then also doing targeted outreach for things like leaks, high water use. And in some cases, if we have enough data, we can do things like detect when customers are irrigating. So we can do things like send messages to customers in the fall and say, hey, it started raining. Looks like you're still irrigating. You might want to, turn your irrigation system off. Once customers sign up, they get access to these water reports. We call them home water reports, but we're actually also sending them to commercial customers as well. So every 2 months, we have a 2-month billing cycle at EBMUD. So when people get their bill, they also get this water report delivered to them that has information about their water use. And when we try to provide a comparison, like you can see here, we have a little bit of information about sort of the size of the person's lot and like what area that they live in, so we can kind of come up with a little bit of a tailored water report that says, okay, for households similar to you, here's how much water they're using, here's how much the really efficient folks are using. And it's important to make sure that those comparisons are valid. I mean, I mentioned, we try to, the system tries to compare to people in a similar geographic area, because we know in our service area, there's a big difference in water use depending where people live, just because of the weather, right? Like if you're in Alamo during the summer, it might be 100 degrees every day. It's going to be really hot. You're going to be irrigating a lot more than somebody who lives, say, in Berkeley or Emeryville, west of the hills, where it tends to be cooler and they tend to get that, fog rolling in. So we want to be cognizant of those things. So the water report goes out. It has links to our web portal. It also has, you can see here, this personalized plan. We share information and tips with our customers based on just, what we know about that particular customer. Sometimes we'll also advertise, events or workshops or things that we have going on. So this is kind of what our web portal looks like when people log in. And you can see here that there's a lot of different options available. And I'm going to go through these. But it really is a great source of information for customers. And again, it's heading in that direction of giving the customers tools to understand and manage their water use. If we have this example here is showing just like a typical, account, like a homeowner who has 1 meter, but we also have customers that are much larger, like commercial and industrial customers, or institutional customers, which includes things like cities, school districts, counties. And for a lot of those customers, we'll work with them to link their accounts so that it's easier for people to kind of, view and manage when they're sort of professionally managing a whole bunch of different accounts. But you can see here, it shows the person's water use. It compares to a similar, period so they can compare to their past use and get a sense of if they're using more, if they're using less. There's a whole bunch of options. You can check if you have a leak. You can understand a high bill, sign up for alerts, manage your account, manage your communication preferences. And then there's also information on, notifications. So, you can decide as a customer, hey, I want to get leak alerts by email, or I want to get them by text, and then, set those things up. So let's talk about some of those in a little more detail. So leak alerts are one of my favorite things, really, really cool. The software system is able to look at people's water use and detect patterns of likely leaks. Like you can see here in that kind of blue line, and I'm pointing at my screen as if you can all see what I'm pointing at, so I apologize for that. But if you see that little light blue line, you can see how that is kind of increasing over time. So that suggests that there's some type of some type of leak. So when the system detects those leaks, if customers have signed up with us, it'll actually send them an alert. So you'll get a text message or you'll get an email that says, hey, you have high water use, it might be a leak. And it'll give a link to our leak resolution tool. So this is a web page that has a ton of information. It has links to additional information. It has videos, and it walks people through step-by-step looking for common sources of leaks. So for example, I mentioned, irrigation systems are the most common. So there'll be a little video and some explainers on how you can check your irrigation system. And then if you don't find anything there, on the next page, it's like, okay, well, here's how to check your toilet. The feedback we get from customers on this is really positive, tends to be 95, 96% positive. It's also really impressive how many customers actually make use of this. Typically, 50–60% of customers will actually open that email, and usually around 10 to 20% will actually click through the links to the leak resolution tool. And a number of them will actually report back to us. They'll actually send a message through the system and say, hey, thanks for letting me know about this. I found out my toilet was leaking, or hey, I have a plumber coming because we think that we have a leak on the house line. So it's a really popular service and really helps us to save water. People can also sort of just track their water usage. You can see here. So you can see that there is a seasonal pattern in water use. Not surprisingly, folks are using more in the summer months to do that irrigation outdoors. But it can be helpful sometimes to check for high water use, particularly for some of our commercial customers. They like to be able to go online and just kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And sometimes these things have an explanation that's really obvious, and sometimes it's not. For example, you might look at this and say, wow, water use here in this household has gone up since 2020. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe somebody had a kid that, or a family member, a kid that came home from college, or a family member that moved in with them. And so they've got an additional person, right? Or in some cases, if the water use goes down, you can kind of look back and pinpoint it to, oh, hey, I actually replaced my dishwasher. I replaced my washing machine with one that was a lot more efficient. And so you can actually see the impact of those actions, the water use going down. One thing that we've been doing a lot of work on at EBMUD. So we have a bi-monthly billing cycle right now. It's kind of old school. So we do, have meter readers who go out every couple months and, read the meter, and then that gets translated into a bill. We have been pilot testing advanced metering infrastructure. So that's putting in smart meters. So in that case, the meter readers are going around. They don't actually even necessarily need to physically look at the meter. They've just got a little handheld device and they just drive around a circuit and collect the billing reads. But those advanced metering infrastructures, the AMI smart meters, give a lot more rich information. So that gives hourly data that our customers can access. Having that hourly data does a few things for us. First of all, we can detect leaks much more quickly. Like you can see here, rather than just having to look for that gradual pattern of water use increasing over time, you can just see those little orange bars that somebody has a leak, right? Like you can just see from day to day, oh, hey, something happened here. And all of a sudden water use went up. There's water being used, 24 hours a day, which is a little unusual. So that in that case, the system can detect leaks much more quickly. So we're losing a lot more water. It also just gives customers much more granular information and a better sense of how they're using water. So you can get a better sense of hey, how much am I using for irrigation? Because you can kind of see your irrigation system clicking on and off. You can tell if there are particular days of the week when you're using more water. If you have teenagers who are taking long showers, you can see that on this. You can see, oh, there's a spike at 7 o'clock. It's because somebody, took a long shower. So just having that really rich hourly data is very useful. And again, that's useful for our single family customers. That's also very useful for a lot of our commercial and industrial customers who can kind of, use that data to sort of monitor their process and make sure things are going smoothly. So that's something we pilot tested. Right now we've got smart meters. We got about 400,000 meters total in our service area. We've put smart meters on around 18,000 and done some tests and some studies and seen that those can in fact, lead to water savings, pretty significant water savings, because again, people are able to find leaks more quickly. So right now we're working on hiring a consultant that's going to help us do what we call the business case, looking at potential full-scale deployment. So, potentially having these smart meters on every meter in our service area so that, again, we have more data and our customers have more data to manage their water use. So if we do decide to move forward with that, there's a lot of benefits, but it's also very, very expensive when you've got 400,000 meters. But if we do move forward with that, that again is going to, that's going to lead to kind of a change in some of our processes, and that's going to lead to more job opportunities, because EBMUD is going to need folks who can kind of help get customers connected to these new online systems and understand their water use and, help us understand the data as well. So as I mentioned, promoting leak detection, that's a really important, tool for us and a continuing focus going forward. There's a lot of, EPA has its Fix a Leak Week, so we do a lot of social media and advertising related to that. And we have a lot of tools. We just need to, help make our customers aware of them. So another really cool tool, I mentioned that we have, that we've been piloting AMI. I'm hoping that eventually, the district will, will be able to move forward and have smart meters on every meter. But in the meantime, there are these new devices called flow meters that give a lot of the same capability. A flow meter is a device that the customer installs themselves, and we have a rebate for it. There's a few different types. There are some that are actually go on the meter. It's basically a device that sort of straps onto the meter, and it's operated by magnets. So you think about the dial on your meter, and it's got the little, it's got the little metal dial that moves as you use water. Well, this flow meter device senses that. And so it can convert that into a minute-by-minute water use. And then it has like a dashboard that's available that customers can have on their phone. And so you can get a lot of those similar kinds of tools in terms of setting up water budgets for yourself and your family, detecting leaks, breaking down the water use, and seeing how much water you're using indoor, outdoor for different applications. And those are really easy to install. There's also devices that are inline flow meters. Those are a little more complicated to install. You usually need a plumber because you actually are cutting into the pipe, the house line, and installing the device on the house line. The benefit of those is that some of them have like a remote shutoff feature. So for example, somebody who maybe rents their home or somebody who's maybe vacant from their home for long periods of time might find that useful, because if they detect a leak, they can just tell the device to shut off water to the house until the person gets home and can deal with it. So this is our newest rebate program. We launched this in, I believe it was 2019. And since then we've, I think rebated around 1,000 of these devices. So they're very popular. This gives you an example of what the portal looks like in some cases. So you can see that it can, add up the data. You can look at how much water you're using monthly, daily, hourly, and even minute by minute, which can be really cool. Like if you think you have a leak, or if you have a new appliance and you want to get a sense of how efficient it is, you can actually see the data there. Customized water budgets. So another tool we've been offering for several years that we're really trying to promote and expand, our IRIS water budget program. So that stands for Irrigation Reduction Information System. So this program initially started with our large accounts that have dedicated irrigation meters. So you might think, for example, parks, schools, cemeteries, golf courses, kind of large plots of land where they're using a lot of water for irrigation. And this is a pretty cool system. So the way it works is these customers give us information about their parcel. So like you can see here in the picture. So we know kind of how big their parcel is. We know how much, different types of plants they have. And then we also have weather data from a few weather stations that we kind of jointly manage with the Department of Water Resources. So every month, this computer program takes the information about the parcels, and it takes the weather data, and it generates this report that gets sent by either mail or email to the customer that says, hey, here's what your budget was for the past month, and taking into account weather conditions, and here's how much water you actually used. This has been a super popular, really helpful tool. A lot of our customers, our larger accounts, really enjoy getting this. And then our staff who manage the program do a lot of outreach. They do a lot of work with the customers to kind of, help them understand their water use. That's one of the services that we offer is, sort of customized. We'll go out and do like irrigation audits. We'll go out and have conversations with these customers to help them understand how they're using water, how they could use water more efficiently. So a very popular service. And we have found that in general, it's been effective. Like we did a study at the end of 2020, looking at the calendar year, and found that collectively, when we added up all the customers in this program, they were using about 80% of their total budgets. So that's great. Folks are coming in under budget. They're irrigating efficiently. And we've also been able to pinpoint specific customers or specific customer classes, different groups of customers who maybe are having trouble, who we can then do some targeted outreach to. And we are looking at potentially expanding this program in the future and making it more available to single family customers as well. The trick there is just, needing to have a way to get the data from customers and have it be up to date in terms of, how big their parcels are, how many folks live in the house, that kind of thing. But that's an area of focus for us in the future. I mentioned before, and I just want to highlight, lawn rebate program is very important. That's kind of an area of growth for us and for a lot of agencies in California. We're not replacing toilets and clothes washers anymore because those are pretty efficient. So instead, we're trying to get folks to get rid of their lawn and put in gorgeous drought tolerant landscaping. We also have rebates for water efficient irrigation equipment. So things like, if you've got a spray irrigation, converting that to drip, that's a lot more efficient. Putting in these smart irrigation controllers that, know to turn off the system if there's rain. Putting in high efficiency nozzles, pressure regulators to avoid that misting problem. And then in some cases, we'll do rebates for irrigation submeters. If folks have larger lots, it can be helpful to kind of know how much water they're using for irrigation, again, for leak detection and things like that. And our rebates are pretty generous. Right now, we offer up to $2,000 for residential or $15,000 for sort of commercial, cities, multifamily properties. And we do a lot of work with our customers to help them in these programs to, make wise decisions about what types of plant choice to put in. And you can see here just, we've got a lot of great photos and examples on our website. I think a lot of times folks, they default to having a green lawn because that's kind of what they're used to. And, if you mention water efficient landscaping, people think, oh, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a bunch of rocks. But no, actually, a lot of these landscapes that folks put in are absolutely gorgeous. You can have a really nice, lovely garden. We did this at my house several years ago. We replaced our backyard. We replaced the lawn with mostly native plants. We love hanging out there. We have tons of monarch butterflies in the summer, and my husband doesn't have to mow the lawn. So it's a win-win for everybody. And you can see here that the water savings can be pretty significant. Like you can see here, this chart shows a comparison of the estimated annual water use for 1,000 square foot lawn compared to, putting in like native plants and more efficient irrigation. And you can see that, for a lawn, if they're using like 33,000 gallons a year, you can drop that to below 10,000 once those plants are all established. So again, pretty big water savings. Another program that we've kind of promoted that's becoming more popular over time is gray water. Some of you may have heard of this. This is the idea of, taking some water that's been used in your house already and then taking it outside and using it for irrigation. The most common projects, the easiest that don't require like a special permit or any kind of treatment or anything, are these laundry to landscape projects, where you can see here, you've got, your washing machine, you just put in this diverter valve so that when the washing machine is kind of doing like a rinse, instead of the water going to the drain, it'll go out and connect to this irrigation system. You can save a decent amount of water there, depending how much water, depending how much laundry you use, how efficient your laundry machine is. So we do offer a lot of educational materials and workshops and things on gray water, and we do offer a rebate for that diverter valve. So I've talked a lot about the types of programs that we have in water conservation at EBMUD. So just to kind of summarize a little bit, and hopefully you've gotten a little bit of a taste of some of this just based on my presentation so far. In the past, water conservation was a lot more about just sort of processing rebate applications. We had a lot of toilet rebates, clothes washer rebates, dishwasher rebates, that kind of thing. We did a lot more on-site customer audits where we would go out and, check people's fixtures. It's changed a lot since then. As I mentioned, we're transforming and transitioning to be more about sort of informational services. So when we think about water conservation professionals today, the types of things that we're looking for is project managers, folks who are have good analytic skills so that they can do some of that, understand that data that I showed. Outreach and marketing is very important. And of course, customer service. And let me talk about those just a little bit more. So communications is a really important skill for us. We do a lot of outreach and marketing on social media these days. So having folks who kind of understand how to live in that world, how to do Twitter, how to do Facebook ads, how to write posts for Nextdoor. We also do a lot of webinars, presentations, workshops. So people who are good at sort of public speaking or good at putting those materials together, it's really helpful. We do have a continued focus on landscaping. As I've mentioned, that's going to be an important program for us long into the future is doing those lawn rebates, and then also helping new construction, helping customers to, put in plants that meet our water efficiency requirements. So having, we always love to have folks who have like a landscaping background, who've, gotten some dirt under their fingernails, who know about plants, who know about irrigation systems. That's really helpful as a skill set for us. We also look for folks who are good with software. I showed you a lot of, pictures and screen shares from our web portal. So having folks who can kind of work on software, who either know how to use software or even who can kind of work on it behind the scenes and help us develop new tools, who can help us pull data and analyze it. That's really useful. But at the end of the day, customer service is still, one of the most important things that I think you need in water conservation, because a lot of, our interactions, it does come down to that one-on-one customer interaction where somebody calls you because they're hyperventilating, they're worried because they've got a high bill, they don't know what's going on, and they need you to kind of help them analyze and figure out what's going on with their water use. Or again, just, being able to work with different groups, and be able to be responsive when, when a commercial customer calls, or a restaurant and needs some help, or, a refinery, or when a Girl Scout troop calls and says, hey, we really want somebody to come and do a presentation for us on how we can save water. So customer service does continue to be a really important focus for us. And we do encourage folks to report water waste to us. So I'll just mention that really quickly. If you're out about in the community and you see those examples that I mentioned of water flowing out on the sidewalk, feel free to let us know. But I think that's pretty much it. Again, I'm happy to field questions today. I can also, before I leave, I'll put my email contact in the chat. So if any of you, at any point you're interested, you want to learn more about the types of careers in water conservation, about the types of skill set we look for, please do reach out to me, whether you're going to be working at EBMUD or someplace else. I obviously care a lot about water conservation, and it's a growth field, and we want to encourage folks to join us in helping to save water. So thank you for your time. And with that, I'll ask Robert, I don't know if there's any questions in the chat.
Oh, Alice, thank you. Wonderful presentation. We want to commend EBMUD and all that they're doing to conserve water. And I want to ask the attendees, if you can just type into the chat the agency that you work for or the organization that you're working for. That'll be good to let us know who's in the room. I do have a question for you, maybe a couple. One is, has the drought caused an increase in signups in your web portal?
Yes, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so I can talk a little more freely. Absolutely. So the drought, we do tend to see an uptake in activity during droughts, which is great. It shows that our customers are paying attention and the word is getting out. So we tend to see increases in water waste reports. We tend to see increases in application for some of our rebate programs. And we do tend to see an increase in folks signing up for our web portal. So absolutely.
That's great. I see Charles has joined us.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, sorry. Thank you. Anyways, I tried to get my video on. My video doesn't show my lovely smile, so maybe
Charles was scheduled to be here early. He had something, an emergency come up that he couldn't be here, but he's here now with us, and you may have a few words you'd like to share, Charles.
Yeah, no. Were there other questions that can maybe follow back on? I just heard the one for Alice about participation and customers' behavior and response during a drought. And to add to that, I'd like to give a little shout out to all EBMUD customers. Have always been fantastic in responding to the ask when there is a need for customers saving water. Our customers step up time and time again. I'm sure Alice covered a lot of that. And so hopefully we get a lot of rains this winter. Our fingers are crossed and go to that next step. Everybody in these, we know how to save. We do it well. And everyone always delivers more than we ask, which is thank you everybody in advance. But hopefully we don't have to go down that path this year. But it's kind of like preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. Oh, Robert, I think you're muted.
Sorry, Robert, you're muted there.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. Another question is what exciting things, and I'm sure Alice probably covered this a little bit, but what exciting things are on the horizon for water conservation?
So I think maybe Charles and I can both answer that, maybe just pick one of our favorite ones. For me, I talked about this a little bit, but I'm really excited about that AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, getting those smart meters out, because, gosh, that just gives us so much more data to manage the system, and it gives our customers so many more tools to manage their water use, and you just find leaks really quickly. It's really exciting. Charles?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that AMI. That's a quantum leap forward for the water conservation and just water management world. allowing us to be able to take that information and package it to help customers take action on things. Right now, unfortunately, our bills are every 60 days, and sometimes that indicator or that signal of unusually high usage or a leak doesn't get caught right away. And so, this is, that step forward. This is also too, when, we get that AMI, you get those hourly reads, 24/7, you can really start to help customers with irrigation patterns. Sometimes they don't realize that they're irrigating 7 days a week. There's a big real disconnect that, that irrigation controllers, that little box that hangs on the wall on the side of the house or inside of the garage, and they look at it and it's like one of those VCRs back of the the 80s that were always blinking 12 o'clock at you all the time. You're like, well, I don't know if I should push a button because I don't want to kill my landscaping, stuff like that. So where we taking this information that we'll get from this automatic metering infrastructure is going to be a great tool for our customers in managing water, helping them understand. At least I know for me, my kids take spa showers. I can't get them in the shower, but once I get them in, I can't get them out of the shower. The ability to say like, hey, you were just in the shower for 20 minutes. What do you know how much water you just used? So yeah, those are going to be a lot of really good tools going forward. And, and then we're kind of also learning, experimenting, like how do we communicate with our customers in the 21st century, like with social media, what do people get their information from? And so those are going to be really good tools and learning curves for us as well on, working with our customers and helping them manage that resource and, keep their bills under control as well.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, this is exciting, and we appreciate you guys sharing this information, and want to encourage you guys to continue the work that you're doing, and also to keep passing it on to others who can jump in and get into the game of water conservation. Have you seen? I have another question for you, because the research says that our younger generation is very environmental conscious, other than the long showers, perhaps. But any indication of
I think there's
more awareness?
Yeah, I think so. And, I'll speak, and then, Charles can add in as well. I mean, I think, and that's in the water industry across the board. Like I've been at EBMUD like 14 years, really long time. And when I first started at EBMUD, for example, water recycling, right? Like you weren't allowed to talk about potable reuse. People saw water recycling as, just getting rid of this waste product. But there's been a real shift there where now, we actually have customers coming to us and saying, we want to do more water recycling. We want to, talk about potable reuse. And I think, and I think we see something similar in conservation as well, where, a lot of times it's actually our customers who are reaching out to us and saying, hey, we need to do more. We need to do more. So I do think that there is that awareness. I think, with climate change in particular, I think people are very much aware of the fact that, we live in California, which is a semi-arid climate, and we have to be really careful with the water that's available to us. And in some cases, that means a paradigm shift. It means, not thinking about a yard as like, this just green lawn expanse, and instead thinking of it as, putting in appropriate plants that, that aren't going to use too much water.
Sounds great. Well, thanks again. Go ahead, Charles.
Oh, no, I was just going to, what Alice said is, is absolutely true, because people, there's a lot more, people pay attention to the weather more than they used to. And that's a good thing, so there's a lot more connection with it. And, I just kind of want to just quick little story is sometimes our customers give us some of the simplest, best ideas. And I'm going to go back all the way to the shower diverter. And this is the last little tip for everybody here today. So if you got a tub shower combination, so the shower diverter is like when you turn on take a shower and you got the water coming out a little diverter, or the water splashing down in the tub. If you pull that little lever on up to divert the water to the shower head, but there's still a bunch of water that's dropping down at your feet, that's a water waste. And it was brought to us during our last drought of 13, 14, 15 by a customer about all the water savings by just replacing this $10 part. And I want to remind people too, is that you pay for that water that comes into the house. You pay to heat it, and then you potentially pay on the wastewater side. So that's a really good water saving tip that, you know, once again, I was mentioning that we got really good, strong EBMUD customers, and people pay attention to these sort of things. So yeah, so if anybody else got some great tips out there, please continue to, you know, send them our way, because sometimes, you know, you're a little too close to things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, that's a great point, Charles. Thanks for bringing up that's telling that story. And so I think all of us have things that we can pay attention to in our homes and in the way that we live that can perhaps save water. Well, thanks, Alice and Charles, for a great presentation, and thank everyone for attending today. I have placed into the chat the survey, and hopefully you'll be able to complete that, and I'll put it in there again. And so you can see it again. Also, Alice has placed her email there if you have any further questions. We will be having further presentations today, 2 more presentations today. Perhaps you can join those, and also 3 presentations tomorrow. And again, thank you for joining us today. And we're going to email the survey questions as well to those that attended, so you can reply in that fashion as well. So if there's nothing else.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Charles, any closing comments?
No, thank you. And keep your fingers crossed for rain.
All right. Thanks everybody for attending us, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.